Thanks, Carolyn, and thanks, Ema. Difficult act to follow. One of the things that Ema said was that people don't have the perception that there's much to do here and there's not much to see. But if you look around the room, look at all the banners, look at what we've experienced over the last while, there is plenty to see, and there'll be more. And one of the things that there'll be more with is the Giant's Causeway Visitor Centre. A lot of you will be familiar with the graphic you see on the screen to my right, the graphic which was a result of the international architectural competition won by Hien Peng in 2005. It's taken us 7 years to get from that to the reality of where we are today. Nearly 2 years ago, we had the official digging of the first sod at the Giant's Causeway. The woman to the right, I think everybody recognises as the current Minister for Enterprise, Trade and Investment, Arlene Foster, and to the left, the previous Director of the Trust in Northern Ireland, Hilary McGrady. That was also the day Prince Edward came to the Causeway for a visit and went to Rathlin, but the less said about that, the better. We also decided that we really needed to get that photo done in the sod dug, because that was just at the time when government finances were coming under question. We thought there's a risk that this mightn't happen, but it did, and it is. Another graphic that you'll be familiar with is the one to my right, which is a depiction of the front of the new building at the Giant's Causeway, and from that you can see very clearly the main products that are being used in the building. The basalt, which is sourced in Kilrea, County Derry, taken to Kilkeel in the Mournes and cut and brought back to the Causeway. A lot of glass to make the building as bright as possible, and the grass roof, the roof which is being built in a field next to the Causeway as we speak, in plastic pods, which will be transported to the roof of the new building. A combination of local grass seeds and amenity grasses to make that roof totally accessible. When I first saw this, I didn't really get it or understand it when it comes to the building, but as time progressed, it's become clearer and clearer. This is about a year ago. The same picture, the same facade, and you see the concrete foundations, and you see this steel beams coming up. Again, about 4 or 5 months after that, you're talking about October, the roof has been laid, and the columns are beginning to take place around the building. And again, the columns as they're almost completed, and you can see very clearly from the picture there to the picture I've just shown you is how the building comes to life. The architect had this vision that the building was almost to be built by Finn McCool. He would come to the Causeway and pick some stone columns from the ground, and they would make the external part of the building that everybody can see. And you can see that the building is resonant of the Causeway. It couldn't be anywhere else in the world. All of the columns, which are built in a very, very precise way, are all different. Like the Causeway, there's no two columns in the 40,000 columns that are there which are the same. As a result of this, in the next couple of weeks, we're going to have 40,186 columns. So well done, Finn. And again, from the building is going to be, the internal parts of the building will feel like Causeway columns as well. And depending where you are, you see the bold, black harshness of the basalt or the light brightness of the North Antrim sky. One of the things about this project is making the visit a better experience for people coming to the Causeway, and one of the great complaints in the past had been the parking, and as part of the planning process and as part of what we're doing, we've identified about twice as many parking spaces as we had previously. Actually, the summer we've just had, I think we've had less congestion at the Causeway because of the fact that we've been working very closely with other providers. The Giant's Causeway and Bushmills Railway have provided a lot of parking spaces, but the two organisations that were at the site, Moyle and the National Trust, all the staff have combined to become a single cohesive team. And we had about 300 parking spaces last year, very little congestion. This year we're going to have 400, as well as the car parks to the front of the Causeway Hotel and adjacent to the main building. There is the car park at Innisfree Farm, which was the old North Coast headquarters for the Causeway, which gives 70 parking spaces. There's a new path goes from Innisfree to the Causeway, and a new park and ride service in operation from Bushmills. That's been in operation over the last year, and it's been very successful. It's brought people into Bushmills and had a positive impact in some way on a number of the businesses in the town. When people arrive at the Causeway, they'll come in a number of ways, on foot, by car, by coach, and everybody will be circulated to what we call the hub at the front of the building. That will be a point of information and a point to get people in through the new visitor centre, which will be a covered route, if you like. Think of Victoria Square. Actually, we have the same builders as Victoria Square. When you're in Victoria Square, you don't realise that you're actually in a shopping centre. In a lot of ways here, you're not going to realise that you're in a traditional visitor centre. You will in some ways, but other ways it will be seen as a route taking you down to the Causeway Stones itself. The primary purpose of people coming around and the hub area is to purchase tickets. One of the most controversial things we've done is change from a parking charge to a per-person charge at the Causeway. There will always be, and there will remain, a full right of public access to the Causeway Stones. There was a case in the High Court in Dublin in the 1890s. Continued local legislation and regulation have placed a right of way to the Causeway. That will not be in doubt. So if you wish to go to the Causeway of your own accord, you will always be able to do so for free. But if you wish to park your car, wish to use any of the other facilities, there'll be a charge, and I'll come back to that. We've done a lot of work in the development of ticket purchase, where people will be able to buy tickets as you would expect at the site, but there's also going to be the opportunity to buy them online from tourism providers, accommodation providers, for example. A lot of people will be availing of tickets through bulk purchase. From the park and ride service operating from Bushmills, we're going to have ticket machines, and also people walking around with the handheld units that you can buy tickets. And these are an example of the ticket machines that we will have both inside and outside of the building. As I said, the pricing change is controversial. We did a lot of research at places throughout the island, every competitive site in Northern Ireland, right across the whole of the island, but also significantly in UK and throughout Europe, and have come up with a proposal which we believe is fair and manageable, particularly bearing in mind that almost 80% of the visitors to the Causeway are coming from outside of Northern Ireland. So for the ticket, people will get admission to the new facilities. They'll be able to use the car parking, but also everybody will be entitled to either a free guided tour or a new handheld audio guide. And on top of that, access to the new state-of-the-art interpretation that will be in the new building. The charge will be, the standard charge per person will be £8.50 with reductions for children and family members. There are group reductions, as you would expect, either on a turn-up at the door basis or on a pre-booking basis. And we also have entered into arrangements with all of the main tourism providers, the bulk providers, and I think everybody but one has signed up to an agreement, and where we have sold a significant number of tickets already from mid-summer onwards for the site. When you go into the building, what will you experience? You go through the ticketing experience, but there are three distinct elements in the building. First, the cafe, and because of the agreement that was reached before the trust took the lead, the cafe space is relatively limited, slightly bigger than the cafe space we had previously, but what we're hoping to do is have a greater amount of external seating. We're going to link in a much better way with the other providers at the site, the Causeway Hotel and the Nook Bar. The second element is retail, and this is a depiction of the shop unit, if you like. And there's two elements to the retail element. One, selling the product that we have, but also tourist information, which we'll come back to. Everything in the building is designed specifically to link into the building, to link into the grid lines, and there's nothing there that could have ever been bought from a shop. So everything has been commissioned, everything is bespoke, and it's going to be a real advertisement for the excellent standards of design and delivery that we have in Northern Ireland. We've developed a full new range of product lines. We've totally divorced ourselves from the usual National Trust way of doing things. There'll be no more His Lordship or Her Ladyship mugs for sale. Everything is being sourced locally. So we have dealings with various manufacturers. There's new jewellery being designed by Steenson's, for example. There's other bespoke depictions of the Causeway in many forms. Also on top of that, we have developed a Giant's Causeway brand, if you like. So you'll see the depiction of the stones in everything we do at the Causeway. A very, very important part of our responsibility is tourist information, and we don't hold. We're not regarding that lightly. So linked into the retail will be the trust staff who will be promoting Northern Ireland, promoting the Causeway Coast and Glens area, promoting the villages of the area to a massive extent. And it's not going to be a usual traditional sit behind the desk tourist information. It's modelled on the Apple Store approach, where you have personal interaction with members of staff. You walk around, you talk to people, and there's a helping hand. I suppose the most important part of the building for the tourist will be the interpretation, and we've developed a number of important principles. Firstly, that the interpretation is people-focused, and there's two ways of dealing with that and looking at that. One is making sure people are getting what they want, but also, and probably more importantly, that there's a total and proper amount of interaction. So you're not going to come to the Causeway and get a black box experience where you don't meet with people or talk to people. There will be people meeting and greeting, talking to you, explaining how to use the site, get the best out of the site, and give that famous Northampton welcome. There's going to be a series of options available. So if you are a big tourism provider and you only want to spend 45 minutes on the site, we will facilitate your trip and get people down to the stones and back. We'll be allowing for longer trips, allowing people to wander through the building as they wish. Or if you're someone like me who just wants to go and see something, experience the open air, and not be involved with any of the interactions. Vitally, everything we're doing in the interpretation will point towards other attractions, World Heritage Sites throughout the world, but most importantly, Northern Irish attractions. So when we're talking about the geology, we'll be talking about the Marble Arch Caves in Fermanagh. When we're talking about mythology, we'll be talking about Rathlin and the rest of the Glens. When we're talking about the environmental interpretation, we're talking about everything that happens throughout the north. And finally, giving access to everybody. Previously at the Causeway, if you were disabled, it was difficult, and we're working on trying to improve that, but also through the interpretation. There are 5 particular sections in the interpretive area. We'll come back to the first and last one, but there's 3 broad areas: the formation and shaping of the Causeway, how the Causeway was formed. There's going to be a lot of interactive units there, talking about the geology, how the continent's divided, people and their stories. Included in the stories is the mythology, but also how people have impacted on the site over the years, the agriculture, the fishing, the links to the formation of tourism as a real product in Northern Ireland, and the natural life. This is the most designated site in Northern Ireland, how we benefit from that and what we can learn. But the 2 main features for people who want to spend less time, perhaps, and go up this covered walkway are the coastal overview and the power of the landscape. The coastal overview section at the front here has a member of staff standing, a bit like me here, pointing to all of the major features of the site and explaining to people how they can get the best out of the site. And the power of the landscape will be very, very high quality animation of the formation of the causeway from a geological perspective, but also the fin story. And we're well developed in having a bespoke fin character, which we hope will become the real fin that everybody recognises. In the other units that you see around, there's all different sorts of things. I know Aquaholics have been involved with a company called Centre Screen, who have been doing a lot of the filming work, so you'll get an idea of the causeway in the past and the present through that. It's not just a visitor centre, it's a whole site, and we've been doing a lot of work on the development of the paths and trails at the site. I only want to talk about one of them in particular. If you see the pink line here, that's a new all-ability access trail to Port Coon Head. Previously, my favourite experience of the causeway is going along the Upper Cliff Path, getting the wind blowing through my hair, taking my time. If you're in a wheelchair or you had mobility problems, you couldn't do that. Now you can. There's a flat path which goes all the way to the edge. You get a great view of the causeway, points to stop, points to stay, and a better experience. The external experience is going to be also improved by the use of audio guides. So anybody who has a verified ticket of the causeway will be given an audio guide to use, and will be able to press at the points that you see there, the red points on the screen. This will give you, using very much a Northampton accent, another form of interpretation at the site, telling the stories, telling the mythology, telling you about the geology. We're also improving the external seating areas, cleansing some of the more elderly pieces of furniture we have around the site and the signage, and replacing them with attractive benching and viewpoints. So, what happens from here? This is the official timeline, and I was glad to see Emma mention that we're opening on the 2nd of July. Within the next month, the building will be sealed, and we'll be starting the fit-out. That won't take that long. We will be past the building on the 28th of May, and in the weeks after that, we will be finishing the fit-out, we'll be training staff, we'll be hosting a number of trial opening events, and the 2nd of July is the official opening date. What we don't want to do, because of the risk that there may be a delay, and the fact that it's our busiest time of the year anyway, and also the fact that there's a host of other major 2012 events on, we're not going to have a huge Come to the Causeway on Monday the 2nd of July event. What we're going to do is wait a bit, and at about the time of the flags, we're going to say, have you been yet? Come and see the Causeway. And later on in the year, there will be an official opening. Then, about a month ago, if you remember the second slide I showed, Minister for Enterprise, Trade and Investment, who also has responsible for tourism, Arlene Foster, MLA, at the launch of the Irish Open in Portrush, said that the visitor centre of the Causeway, of course, it's going to be open in time. So that's what we're really doing. We are planning to open a week earlier to coincide with the Irish Open. We're not stating this publicly. Publicly, our opening date is the 2nd of July. It'll come forward to the 25th of June over the next 6 weeks or so. If the weather stays as it is, if the builders are able to finish their build, so we're working on a very, very tight timescale, but we're nearly there. We're on time, on budget, and will be a contributory event to what's happening in 2012. Finally, of course, I would just like to thank the funders, the Northern Tourist Board, Heritage Lottery Fund, and the European Regional Development Fund, which is investing in our future. Thank you.